Back in the winter of 1883, out where the sky was wider than most dreams, and the land still breathed wild and free, there came a letter in a girl's trembling hands. A letter from a man she'd never met, promising a new life, a homestead, and perhaps love. Clara Mae Jenkins was a seamstress from a town outside Peoria, Illinois. Her hands were calloused from years of mending coats and stitching wedding gowns for other people's daughters. She had the kind of face folks call kind. Not beautiful by the standards pinned to magazine drawings, but warm, the kind that made children stop crying and old women linger in conversation. Some called her sturdy, others said she had a generous figure. Clara never minded much. She knew what she was made of. Not silk, but something strong. Muslin and grit. She had never left Illinois, not once. But after reading and rereading the letters from a man named Jedediah Turner, a rancher from Dry Creek, Wyoming, she did something no one expected. She said yes. He had written plainly. Said he needed a woman to share the burden of the land. Someone to cook, help raise children when they came, and grow old beside him under the western stars. He didn't speak of beauty or appearances, just companionship. That, Clara thought, was the most honest form of love. So she sold everything. Her sewing machine, her mama's dishes, even the rocking chair she used to dream in. All that remained fit into one weathered trunk. She packed it with folded dresses, a sewing kit, her Bible, and her mama's faded quilt stitched with lilies and thorns. The train ride west was long and cold. She stared out frost-rimmed windows, her gloved hands clutching his letters like lifelines, her hope stitched into every crease. When the train finally hissed to a stop at Dry Creek Small Station, the platform was nearly empty. Snow swelled like whispers. Clara stepped off, her boots crunching on the frost-covered boards. She scanned the horizon, searching for a man she had imagined 100 ways. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, a man approached, a tall figure, broad-shouldered, his coat dusted with snow, his hat pulled low. He walked with purpose but not warmth. He didn't smile, didn't extend a hand. "Miss Jenkins," he said, nodding once. Then he lifted her trunk onto his wagon without meeting her eyes. The ride was quiet, the silence between them loud. At his homestead, behind a creaking barn door, he finally spoke. "You're not what I expected," he said, voice low but firm. Clara's heart caught. "Oh," she asked. "You're a fine woman, I can see that," he continued. "But I was expecting someone smaller, more delicate." The words didn't pierce like daggers. They fell like snow, cold and heavy. Clara nodded once. "I see." She didn't cry, didn't argue. She simply turned, lifted her skirt from the muddy ground, and walked. Back toward town, toward the station. Not because she had a plan, but because staying would shatter her. The station was empty. The tracks quiet. No train was due for days. She sat on her trunk, snow clinging to her lashes, and let the silence hold her. She didn't know anyone, had no money for a return ticket, but she had breath in her lungs and the strength to keep moving. That would have to be enough. Clara found a small room to rent above the apothecary. The ceiling leaked. The walls whispered wind. But it was hers. She paid with the last of her sewing money and began again. She offered mending to townsfolk. Fixed torn cuffs. Patched old quilts. Rehemmed dresses for women who eyed her kindly but kept their distance. And of course, the whispers came. "That's the mail-order bride who got turned away. Poor girl. Shame about her size." She waited in the snow for hours, you know. Clara kept walking, shoulders back, chin high. Each morning she knotted her hair, tied her apron, and proved she didn't need to be chosen to be worthy. Slowly, kindness found her. Mrs. Pickings from the bakery traded old bread for stitched curtains. The blacksmith's wife brought her scraps of gingham. "You understand how to hold things together," she whispered. And then there was the general store. It stood at the town's heart, stocked with everything from nails to licorice. Clara preferred the quiet hours, mid-morning, when children were in school and the men out working. That's when she noticed him. Eli Cartwright, tall, soft-spoken, with spectacles always slipping down his nose. He didn't speak much, but he always greeted her. One morning, as she placed a spool of green thread on the counter, he nodded to the book peeking from her basket. "You like to read?" he asked. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "Romances, Mostly, she said. Lately, I've needed stories that end well. He smiled, not mockingly, but gently. I might have a few you'd enjoy, he said. The next time she came in, a small parcel wrapped in brown paper waited by the register. No charge, he said. Just return it when you're done. She did, and with each return, they spoke more. About the stories, then the weather, then pie crusts and prairie grass. Their conversations were slow, stitched together like one of Clara's quilts. He never mentioned Jedediah, never brought up the whispers. He just looked at her like she was more than a tale, like she was worth knowing. One morning, Clara brought him a tart wrapped in cloth. Cranberry, she said. Fresh. Eli blinked. Too kind. Kindness isn't meant to be measured, Clara replied. He looked at her then, fully, as if reading between lines he hadn't dared before. Spring crept in. Snow melted into mud. And Clara stitched a new quilt at night. She added pieces from her shawl, from the gingham Mrs. Pickings gave her, and a strip of blue fabric Eli once admired. When it was done, she folded it gently, wrapped it in paper, and walked to the general store. Eli unfolded it slowly. You made this. It was my mamma's, she said, but I added to it. Thought maybe it could keep your chair warm. His voice was soft. No one's ever given me something like this. Clara smiled. No one's ever made me feel safe enough to. He stepped around the counter and took her hand. You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, he said. She didn't look away, because for the first time, she believed it. At the spring harvest dance, Clara wore a lilac dress with cream buttons, her hair pinned up. She didn't come to dance, just to belong. But Eli crossed the room in his pressed shirt, eyes steady. Miss Jenkins, he said, offering his hand. Would you dance with me? She hesitated. Are you sure? Very sure, he said. Their first dance wasn't perfect, but it was real. Later, under the stars, Eli whispered, I never expected love, hey? But then you walked into the store. Clara smiled. You didn't just look at me. You saw me. A year later, under a dogwood tree behind the store, Clara and Eli were married. Her dress was cream lace. His eyes never left hers. They said simple vows, words they meant. And when he said, I never knew peace until I met you, Clara's hand didn't tremble. Later, as they danced in the grass, he whispered, You changed my life. She smiled. No, you reminded me who I already was. So if the world ever tells you you're too much or not enough, remember Clara Mae Jenkins. She rode west with nothing but hope and left footprints that still echo in the soil of Dry Creek. Not because she was chosen, but because she chose herself.